Well, I am back with another review. Surprise, surprise, right? That I'll be doing another review. This week, or today, or this hours, I guess I can phrase it now, is of Return of the Jedi. I feel that this movie structurally was probably, as far as like the storyline wise, I'm not meaning like the hero's journey and narrative structure and stuff like that. I'm just meaning story based wise. I do think that this was a lot more stronger story than Empire Strikes Back. I do think it has the second best opening of these three movies. Just due to like up until actually leaving Tatooine and actually saving Han from Jabba, and that whole sequence of how his plan played out was just, to me, one of the more intriguing ways that they went about this movie. Now, something I touched on in my last video about Luke's training. In this, he's shown almost immediately having Jedi powers, like almost like a full Jedi Knight, almost at the beginning of the movie. And now I know that people nowadays know it from the prequels as far as how long it takes to train a full Jedi Knight and the things that they have to go through the Jedi training or the hierarchy. But back then in 1984, I believe, when this was first released, nobody really knew what the whole thing that the Jedi had to go through to become a Jedi. So the little bit of time he had training with Obi-Wan, with maybe a couple of lessons there, he had, like I said in the last video, wasn't confirmed nor denied how long he was on Dagobah before going to Bespin, and I rounded it to about 7 to 21 days, so roughly about 3 weeks, give or take. And then in this movie, between the first movie, or not the first movie, but Empire and this movie, it was about a year's time difference. So it took him about a year to become a full Jedi Knight. And in that year, I'm pretty sure he was training with Yoda on Dagobah. He might have left to go save Han at that point, but then he said he was going to go back and finish his training. Which I know you can go, oh, but in Empire Strikes Back, he said that I promise I'll return, I'll finish my training to Yoda and stuff like that. But I do think that he'd already fulfilled that promise by saying he was going to come back in between these movies. I liked how the way that they showed that Leia was Force sensitive, because it was a subtle way of her always kind of knowing that Luke was her brother, which is a kind of weird thing if you think back to episode 5, but I'll get into all that in the next video. And then just kind of being able to Force sense things. It kind of made me want to believe that she did get Force trained and trained in the Jedi arts and stuff like that. Don't get ahead of yourself, trust me, I'll be getting to that stuff later. And it's just the way that Leia was handled through these three movies, but especially in this one, was pretty good as far as a female protagonist's standpoint is. Like, she's usually looked at as icon, and again in the opening scenes, the sequence, she kind of was, because she was in the slave bikini and all that good stuff, but bad stuff, I guess you could say. But it's still like she was just a strong presence throughout this movie, always taking leadership and always making sure that if there was something that needed to be done, she didn't try to pawn it off on somebody. She did it herself. They were showing this strong female character. Which, speaking of strong characters, I do think that the Ewoks get a lot of hate for no reason. As you think about where they're at, they're on a desert, or not a desert, but a forest, forest. What usually inhabits forests are fur-covered beings, like bears, wolves, leopards, giant cats, stuff like that in our world. Now in their world, it's going to be different. So Ewoks could very much well live in that thing, but a lot of people want to put our way of living into these movies, but you got to think of these movies as their own separate being in their own separate place, and think of it kind of like a documentary in a way. So I don't have a problem with them, and then you can kind of see them apprehensive, because to me the way it was understood was they've never seen a human before, or someone that looks like us. So they're on guard, they're thinking that these people are going to here to hurt them, and then Leia gains the trust of Wicket, and then 3PO comes out and kind of looks all godlike, so they worship him, and then everyone else is just like, you're gonna die, you're gonna be food. So they're kind of primitive. And then you see whenever they actually earned their trust later through the story with 3PO and stuff like that, then you get to the battle on the moon at the end, and you kind of see they're gaining ground, they're losing it. They're gaining ground, they're losing it as far as the battle against them, and they're constantly coming up with new things. And yeah, it could be looked at as a plot device to saying, oh, these people gotta win. But this is the lighthearted movie of this trilogy. A lot of the previous two are more darker, more not dense, but just dark, dingy type movies. And now you get this lighthearted one because the Jedi are taking over the galaxy again. They're wiping out the oppression of the Sith, and so that scene, or that war and that battle that's going on the surface of the moon is totally 100% justified in the way that it's shot because of the type of movie that they're trying to tell and the story that they're telling. But yeah, it's just like this whole story was just a lot better handled, in my opinion, than it was in Empire. Empire was just kind of like thrown together, but this one, as far as along the way, this one kind of seemed like it was more set in stone from the get-go, and then things went along. Palpatine, he was a very menacing overlord that didn't do much in this movie, but he still was fearful. You know, you were fearful of this dude because he's cruel looking, he looks deformed, he has this dude that we've never seen. We only know he's a human from a brief momentary scene in Empire that knows that he's a person and under a mask, and not that's what this species that is Vader looks like. And then he changes his plan, and that was his downfall, and a lot of people don't think of it that way. With everything that we've seen nowadays, with everything that we've gotten since then, because we have to see these movies as a whole story. If you go back and look at this movie now with the knowledge that we do now with the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy, you know that he has always been able to foresee things and being able to understand that this is his downfall, or not downfall, but like this is gonna happen if he does this kind of thing. And in this movie, he was wanting Luke to take Vader's place, and then the moment he was tempting Luke to kill him, because spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker, pause this video until you go and see it, because this is a very small spoiler, but it's still a spoiler. I'll give you a second. Okay, welcome back to those that have seen it. You know that Palpatine was trying to allow somebody to kill him in anger, in hate, and fulfill this ritual that he gets to push his essence into this person and continue living throughout history, or throughout the rest of everyone else's life for the Sith. So he was wanting to do that with Luke, and I want to believe that he was doing the same thing with Vader at the end of episode 3, but when Vader became, cut in half, burned, that wasn't possible because he needed a stronger body, host body, and Luke was that host body that was going to be coming. So now Luke was about to kill him, and then Vader steps in and interrupts it. I want to say that Vader knew that was going to happen and didn't want it to happen. So he steps in and was trying to save his son. The compassion for his son won the day at that moment. And so then now Luke sees Vader's hands cut off. He sees the resemblance that he is machine, but he can kind of relate because his hands cut off as well. So he wakes up and loses his anger, and then just throws his lightsaber aside, and Palpatine is like, alright, forget it. You're going to throw away your lightsaber. You're not going to fulfill this prophecy. I'm going to kill you and take your sister. And so that's what happened. He threw his plan to become, or inhabiting Luke, because he wasn't going to get what he wanted. And Vader saw that moment, saw it, and then he's like, alright, Palpatine's lost his way. This isn't what was supposed to happen. So that... Hang on, there's an ant on my camera. It's funny. But, yeah, so whenever he changed his plans, thing went wrong. And it usually does for Palpatine. And so he's somebody that needs to stick to the plan. And if he doesn't, things go wrong. And that is exactly what happened. And that's what led to his death. Everybody knows that in Rise of Skywalker, he comes back. I'll touch on that when I get to that movie here tomorrow. But yeah, like this movie was just so much more than just, oh, Ewoks, or oh, Vader killed Palpatine by throwing him down a shaft and stuff like that. There was more to it. There was more substance there that people are looking just at face value on this movie. And people aren't hating this movie. Nobody I've seen has hated this movie. It's just something that people don't give the respect that it actually needs. Like, a lot of people say that it's Empire and then like Revenge of the Sith. Nah, I say it's Revenge of the Sith than Jedi, in my opinion, because it's just the story that's told and then the way it is told. To me, it's just so much more powerful in this movie than it is in the next, or in the last. So that's my review of this movie. I hope you took something away from it that you might not have seen or noticed before, or just because you haven't seen it in a while, you might have forgotten. So I do hope you enjoyed it. I will be back in another hour or so with another video of my recap of this whole trilogy and the story that was told. And I hope you enjoyed that one as well as this one. And I hope you come back. I'll see you in a little bit.